Season 1 of Marvel's What If has officially wrapped up, and now it's time to talk about it. This is, of course, a bunch of alternate realities in which the Avengers and all the other Marvel characters exist in, and we've all seen the original timeline in all 24 by this point, including Shang-Chi, and now we have these alternate realities and what would happen if one detail was changed. Starting with episode 1, which with Captain Carter, and all the way to episode 8 would be if Ultron won. Episode 9 was, of course, a big fight with Ultron, but we'll get to that in a bit. Now, this show was actually something I was really looking forward to, because this seemed like an awesome idea. What would happen if something different happened in the Avengers universe? The possibilities are literally endless. And that's why I was really concerned after finishing the first episode. First episode of this was not impressive. So, one thing I will specify that I watched the first episode when it first came out. And the day it came out, I watched it. And then I waited a while. I waited a long time. And about a couple weeks ago, I watched episodes 2 and 3. And I'm like, okay. Then I put it off again, and then just yesterday I watched episodes 4, 5, and 6, and then today I watched 7, 8, and 9, which premiered today. So there were a lot of gaps in between the episodes, and there's a good reason for this. It's because the show got off to a rocky start. So we'll go episode by episode, then talk about everything, and then rank them at the end. So the first episode was... I'm just going to give these little short ones. I'm not going to say, what if this happened? First episode is Captain Carter. This is why I was worried. This episode sucked. I'm like, okay, Captain Carter, this is an interesting idea, but all it was a bunch of really lame references to the first Avenger, and just another one of these feminist pieces that I couldn't stand, or at least that's what it felt like. And that's all it was. The animation for the show is something I'll get into later, but this one, it looks particularly janky, where the action doesn't quite flow correctly, the character models look off. And I do appreciate that they got a lot of the cast members for these films. They didn't get back any of the big ones. They didn't get back Downey or Evans, but they got back as many people as they could. They didn't bring back Johansson, but honestly, I'm okay with that, given her recent shenanigans. So this first episode wasn't impressive. Episode 2 was if T'Challa became Star-Lord. This was kind of a stupid idea. I remember seeing the trailer and I thought, this is a really dumb idea. Like, of all the possibilities you could have, T'Challa as Star-Lord? Come on, you can't think of anything better for Black Panther or for the Guardians of the Galaxy. And this episode was fine, I guess. Again, it was just a bunch of dumb references to other films, like with Thanos randomly showing up, like, T'Challa convinced him that his idea was dumb. And then you have all of these other Guardians and other people from the films that just show up for no reason. Like, Howard the Duck shows up in this show in 2 different episodes. This one I can kind of understand why. The other one's just dumb, and especially what he does in the other episode he's in is dumb, but I'll get to that in a second. But honestly, and the idea of the Collector being the villain of this episode, and him having all these really powerful artifacts he can use to fight, that was an interesting idea. But the idea of this episode was just a stupid idea from the start. And that's what drags this one down. Episode 3, I have my notes over here, like all the episodes. Episode 3 was what if all the Avengers were killed off before the Avengers actually happened. This, again, was an interesting idea, and it was revealed at the end to be Hank Pym. And I'm like, okay, because apparently in this reality, Hope worked for S.H.I.E.L.D., and I guess she died in combat, and he wants to kill the Avengers because of that. It's not really made clear. Like, yeah, I get it. His daughter died because she was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. She was in the field working for S.H.I.E.L.D. That rhymed unintentionally. But why, pray tell, does that drive him to wanting to kill off the Avengers? That doesn't make sense. They had nothing to do with this. But honestly, this episode wasn't that bad, and I did think it was interesting. Episode 4 is where things actually get good. with what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? One thing I will say is, like, why was he with Christine in the first place? They don't really explain it. Like, in the original, he's by himself in the car, which is why he loses his hands. But in this one, why is she with him? It's not made clear. And I think in the original, he was going to, like, he was, like, going to go on a date with her or something. I don't know. And then in this one, they're, like, going to some kind of award ceremony for Steven. And in this one, not only does he come away from the crash completely unscathed, but again, why was she there? But that's a minor nitpick. The rest of this episode was a pretty good one. I did like how the Ancient One, like, split him off into two different personalities. I thought that was a really clever idea. And honestly, I liked the ending. It was a really ballsy ending. The MCU has its dark moments. It does, especially, but the Disney Plus shows seem to relish going into dark places at times. It started with WandaVision, even though that one was more implied, where she's basically enslaving all these people to bend to her will for her perfect life. That's a pretty dark subject matter when you think about it. And then, of course, Falcon and Winter Soldier, not only do you have these people who are killing people off, like, left and right, you also have that really gruesome scene at the end of episode 4, another episode 4, where Walker kills the guy, I don't remember the guy's name, where he kills him and then you see the blood on his shield. That's a really dark scene. I don't know, I can't remember if Loki had anything that dark, but I get you can consider the ending where the multiverse is basically thrown into whack as dark, but I don't know about that. But this one, the ending was so overly bleak that I have to respect it. I did not expect them to go this route, to where the good version of Stephen Strange gets his ass kicked, Dark Stephen wins, and also loses at the same time. He wins, but he destroys the universe in the process, and he creates, like, his own prison to where all that's left of the universe is him. That's a really gruesome and bleak ending, and I really have to respect it for it. I'm not saying you need to. that may sound off to some people. Like, wow, that's dark for you. I appreciated the balls on this episode. Episode 5 was zombies. Again, this was an episode I was looking forward to because this is actually a Marvel comic arc, and it's a weird one, but it was at least interesting to read. I read the comic arc, well, most of it anyway. And I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of weird. Again, I thought it was weird, but I actually enjoyed reading it. This one, I thought it was okay. It at least made sense on how the outbreak started, where Janet Van Dyne brings back some kind of, like, infection with her from the quantum realm. That's a good idea, and I like how pretty much everybody is dead at this point. Pretty much all of the main Avengers. Is it literally all 6 of the main Avengers? I think it is. Yeah, it is. And the only ones that are left are Happy Hogan, Spider-Man, Winter Soldier, Sharon Carter. Who the hell else was left? Kind of Black Panther, but he shows up later. Vision, of course. Though, again, that's something completely different. There was one other. I cannot put my finger on who it was, though. Oh, that's going to drive me insane, but whatever. And, like, yeah, so all the main... and this is... Oh, and Hulk, duh. This was another really dark episode because not only, again, is the subject matter pretty dark, it gets violent at times. Like, the way they kill... I know they're zombies, but still, the way they kill some of these creatures off is just insane. Like, there's a point where Hulk blasts Iron Man's head off, and I know the joke that's been going around is that every time Iron Man appears in this show, he gets killed off at some point. In episode 3, he gets killed off by Hank Pym. In this one, he gets killed by Hope Van Dyne. And in the next episode, he gets killed by Killmonger. You know, he shows up in the last episode, but I'll get to why that doesn't make sense in a bit. So, yeah, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Again, I liked how violent this episode was. I think it's an interesting concept for an episode. And honestly, this one made me like the MCU Spider-Man again. His solo films always kind of drag him down because they always make him look like an idiot. The Russos know how to write Spider-Man. And this one, we get our first reference to Uncle Ben. Thank God. You can tell the people who are writing this show know how to write Spider-Man. So yeah, this one is pretty decent too. Episode 6, Killmonger saves Tony Stark in Afghanistan. Again, this was another one I thought was going to be pretty stupid, but honestly, it was better than I thought it was going to be. I like that this was a different approach to how he kind of tried to take over Wakanda, and this one he basically succeeds. And he becomes the Black Panther at the end. I like how his plans are so thoroughly laid out. And he gets to Tony Stark, and although one weird thing is that this takes place like almost 10 years before the events of Black Panther. Why does he look exactly the same? Even if you want to make the argument he's like 33 in Black Panther, let's just say that. He would be in his early 20s. He would be in his early years as a soldier. So that's kind of weird, but I don't think they really took into account of the timeline. So yeah, I like how he was the villain of this one, and he actually he like played the villain and the hero at the same time. He tried to he pretended to help the Americans, and then when he had his own agenda to get to Wakanda, and he helped Wakanda fight off their drone things that he used Stark to make. And then he basically takes over Wakanda, sort of. He becomes the new Black Panther, and he's now the heir to the throne. But I do like that both Shuri and Pepper know something's up. Like, Pepper knows something's up immediately, and Shuri knows, yeah, this guy's bad news. So, again, another half-decent episode. Episode 7 was If Thor Was an Only Child. This is a really good concept for one. So yeah, what if Loki never existed? Would Thor be more peaceful like his father? Would he be more reckless and warmongering even more so than in the first Thor movie? But what do they do with this episode? They make him throw a big-ass party on Earth. That is the lamest idea you can have with this story. There are so many avenues you could take. Maybe he destroys Jotunheim on his own. Maybe he brings chaos to the Nine Realms. Maybe he brings peace to the Nine Realms. There's so many interesting things you can do here, but they do the laziest possible option. And of course, there's a bunch of other dumb stuff in this episode. Like, they bring back Darcy in this. Like, they have Jane Foster and Darcy. For some reason, Selvig's not there. His name is mentioned once, but he's not there for some reason. And Darcy is probably my least favorite character in the entire franchise. I hate her so much. I hate Kat Dennings. They bring Jane into this, who, again, a character I don't like, and I'm not looking forward to her becoming a Thor. I'm gonna hate that, and honestly, Natalie Portman's getting on my nerves, too. Like, oh, I hate working with Marvel. Oh, now I get to do cool stuff in Marvel. Now I like Marvel. Fuck off. Now I get to be Thor. Okay, I'll happily come back. Just fuck off. I already don't like her character, so that's even if it was somebody else, I didn't care for it. And Loki and Thor are friends, I guess, and Loki's like the Prince of Jotunheim, of course, and so this, and then there's Captain Marvel, who are not played by Brie Larson, so upgrade right off the bat. But other than, even still, they tried to make us like Captain Marvel in this show. She shows up multiple times. You could tell they're like, okay, we need to make people try to make people like Captain Marvel, because they know we don't like her in the movies because she has no character. And this one, they tried. They gave her the one-liners. They gave her something resembling a personality, at least. And the voice acting is much better than Larson's performance in Captain Marvel. So that's a plus for this. I do like how Captain Marvel just kicks Thor's ass throughout the entire episode, even though at some point Thor just kind of walks away after fighting when she's still just sitting. She's on the ground. She's like right there. Thor walks away, and then it cuts to another scene where Danvers is with S.H.I.E.L.D. Why did she stop fighting? Why did she run away? And it happened off screen, too. So that was pretty dumb. So yeah, this episode, not good. Episode 8 was if Ultron won. There's not much to say about this one. It was pretty interesting how Ultron ended up obtaining all the Infinity Stones. He just up and killed Thanos. Again, another pretty dark moment to it. And he ends up fighting the Watcher because he now can see the multiverse. He can see outside of his own universe after he destroys his own. And the only two left are Black Widow and Hawkeye for some reason. Like, I know they were in the Quinjet when he just set off all the nukes, but really? He couldn't kill them? The two without superpowers? Come on. And the only one end up being left is Black Widow and the AI of Arnim Zola, who ends up fighting Ultron, who basically they try to use him to destroy Ultron, since his basically being a huge virus if you inject it into Ultron. And that's an okay idea. And again, I like the fight between Ultron and Watcher. It's pretty cool. And that leads us... Oh, and one thing I do like is at the end of the Thor episode, tied into the next one, where Ultron with all the Infinity Stones first showed up. Even though this does create a huge plot hole to how can the stones work in an alternate universe. It was established in Loki that the Infinity Stones are useless outside of their own universe. So what the hell? And they do even kind of make reference to that, to where the stone crusher that they use is designed for the stones of their universe, and that's why it didn't work on the ones Ultron has. So why are they able to work at all? That doesn't make sense. So that leads us into the episode 9, What If the Watcher Broke His Oath? In which case, the Watcher brings in a bunch of heroes from these other episodes, including Captain Carter, Lone Child Thor, Strange Supreme. He starts with Strange Supreme, and T'Challa Star-Lord, and Killmonger Black Panther. And a Gamora from an Earth to where she brings like the Stone Crusher and is there with a Hulkbuster Tony Stark at the Peter Dinklage dwarf place, or giant place, where he made Stormbreaker. That's where they got the Infinity Crusher. But what universe is this? This isn't any of the ones we established. Because every single time Tony Stark appeared in this show, he's dead. He's killed off. Again, by Hank Pym, Hope Van Dyne, and by Killmonger. He's not alive in any of these, so what fucking universe? This is just a random universe they threw in. And of all the characters, you can throw in any character you want. Fine. You don't want to bring in Iron Man into this? Fine. You want to put something with Iron Man? Fine. But why Gamora? Why not somebody more interesting? I like Gamora fine, but of all the characters you could use, why Gamora? Why not bring in one of the hundreds of other characters you have and make it a bit more interesting? Because other than this Infinity Crusher, which you can give to any character, how does she contribute to the final battle? Not really. Basically the entire episode is one big fight with, I guess, Mega Ultron. I don't know what to call him. And again, it's a really cool fight, and I like how they end it by Arnim Zola, by them injecting the Ultron body with the virus, and then Killmonger ends up taking the stones. And honestly, I was hoping they wouldn't pull something where Killmonger betrays them, but at least it wasn't something like, oh, I'm just going to take all the power I want. He says, we now have the power to fix our universes. That's... okay, they saved it there. They saved that stupid contrivance by his motivation. I actually really like that. And I like how Arnim Zola, who's now possessing the Ultron body, is they're now fighting over the stones, and Strange traps them in a little pocket dimension. And, so I like how they wrap that up. And then they have the Black Widow, who's like the only human left on her planet from the Ultron episode. She goes to the episode where the Avengers were originally killed off, to where I guess the Avengers in that one are Captain America, Captain Marvel, and some other people I couldn't see in the wide shot. She joins that universe, and Fury immediately knows it's not her. Okay. Like, he doesn't even question it. He's just like, I know you're not our Natasha. I'm like, lucky guess, the fuck? And then Captain Carter's universe, where she's in Winter Soldier. That's one thing. It starts off with her in, like, Winter Soldier going to the ship to fight the Russian guys. And it's, or I guess German, I don't know what it is. It's that same scene. It's the same jokes with her and Natasha. But then at the end, it's revealed that there's the Hydra Stomper, which is what they have, with Steve Rogers inside. How? I don't know. So, okay, so what if season 1? Bad start, but it got better as it went along. So time to rank them. Much like I did with my my last TV show review. I'm not gonna like put them on screen like I did for Visions. I'm not gonna put them on screen or anything. I'm just gonna talk, and I'm gonna get through these pretty quick. Last place, Captain Carter. A bunch of, like I said, a bunch of just dumb references to to a far superior film, The First Avenger, and just nothing else. And then, like I said, okay, something I do want to bring up before I rank the rest of these. The animation in the show looks bad. It's really bad. It is lazy. And I do like they got a bunch of voice actors in. So I think the voice acting kind of cancels out the bad animation. Okay, so 9, Captain Carter. 8, Only Child Thor. Such a great concept, but squandered by poor execution and dumb decisions. Number 7, T'Challa Star-Lord. A dumb idea from the start, but it does kind of make use of some of the stuff in the Guardians universe. Number 6, What If the Avengers Were Killed Off? Again, an interesting idea, but ruined by a twist that's not really explained very well. Number 5, Ultron. A really cool episode, but again, it's just kind of... It has a lot of contrivances that don't really make sense, but the fight between Ultron and Watcher is the highlight. It's really awesome. Number 4, Killmonger rescues Tony Stark. Again, a stupid idea, but one that's made up for in its execution. I like how he eventually betrays Stark and kills him and has his own motives the entire time and plays against both sides like Emperor fucking Palpatine. But this time, it works here. In third place, Zombies. A really cool comic, or an interesting comic arc brought to life in an interesting fashion. That's probably the best way to put it. Number 2, Watcher breaks his oath, the finale. Again, just basically one big fight, but it's a pretty good fight. And I do like how they got all these unique characters, and I just wish they'd come up with someone more interesting than just a random universe Gamora. Like, somebody interesting, or at least give her something interesting about her, not just another Gamora. And then in first place, Strange Supreme. That's what I'm going to call this episode, because that's what he becomes. Again, not only a good concept, but it starts off interesting, and it gets better as it goes along, and has such a bleak ending that I really respect it. So, that's season 1 of What If. We got season 2 coming up, too. The season 2 is been confirmed. I don't know if it's going to come out next year. It probably would. That would make sense, but... I don't know. The MCU shows are a lot different from other shows, where they're not just going to have a season every year. It's not going to be... Like the Disney XD shows or any of the all those other animated shows that they've had or any of that. So, or even like the DC shows, their CW shows or their HBO Max shows where they get a season every year, provided they're not canceled after season 1, like Swamp Thing or Watchmen. So, that's all I got for What If. What was your favorite episode of this show? What was your least favorite? Did you like this? Did you hate it? I'm kind of in between. I'm going to go... If you had asked me what I would have said after watching the first 3 episodes, I would have said this is 2.5. What the hell am I watching? But now, it bumps it up to a 3.1 out of 5. It saves it with some really cool episodes that happened in the second half. So, that's all I got for What If. I'm looking forward to what the MCU brings next. Next month we get Eternals, and then we get Spider-Man No Way Home. So, I'm looking forward to what the MCU... as in store. If you're an MCU fan, I definitely recommend checking out What If.